Atma Namaste and welcome. Thank you for joining us for the continuation of Compassionate Objectivity, Grandmaster Chokok Sui's Golden Lotus Sutras. Let us start by invoking for divine blessing. To the Divine Supreme God, Divine Father, Divine Mother, we humbly invoke for your great blessings. To Master Chokok Sui, Mahaguru Jimeling, all the spiritual elders, all the Holy Masters, saints, archangels, holy angels, and spiritual helpers, we thank you for your great, great blessings, your divine light, divine love, divine guidance, help, healing energy, and divine protection. We thank you in full faith, Soviet. All right, welcome again. Today we've finished this book. We're in part 7, which is honesty and non-lying, which is another term of objectivity and non-falsehood. So before we tackle that virtue, why don't we do some cleansing? So tap your crown, press the center of your palm, be aware of your feet, raise your hands. So focus on the crown, the hands, and the feet. Take a deep breath. Let's chant Om. 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 Just be still. The divine energy is entering your crown chakra is being cleansed. Your forehead, your ajna chakra are being cleansed. Your throat chakras are being cleansed. Your front back heart chakras are being cleansed. Your front back liver chakras are being cleansed. Your front back spleen chakras are being cleansed. Your front back solar plexus chakras are being cleansed. Your navel, your spleen, your sex chakra and basic chakras are all being cleansed. Just be receptive. You're under waterfall of beautiful divine light. All negative thoughts, negative energies in these chakras are completely disintegrated, extracted, and properly disposed of. So be it. Just be still. Allow the divine energy to purify your chakras, your channels, and your energy bodies. Just be receptive. Om. Just be still. Okay, you may slowly open your eyes. How do you feel? Much lighter? Just get up and just do some shaking. Shake some of that old energy out. All right, have a seat. Pull out your book. We're on page 43, if you have this version of the book. Compassionate Objectivity, the Golden Lotus Sutras of Character Building. And we're on honesty and non-lying. All right, let's just dive into it. Divine intelligence manifests as objectiveness and non-falsehood. So just to kind of recap, you are a being of divine love, divine intelligence, and divine power. So we've covered the other virtues already, but just to kind of wrap up everything, you are a being of divine love. That manifests as the first two virtues, loving kindness and non-injury, and generosity and non-stealing. Okay? Now you are a being of divine power. That's where constancy of aim and effort comes in. So that's 3 virtues. Then the last one is you are a being of divine intelligence. That's where honesty and non-lying, or objectiveness and non-falsehood comes in. So the question is, where does moderation and non-excessiveness comes in these three categories? Again, divine love is loving kindness and non-injury, and generosity, non-stealing, right? And then you are a being of divine power, so that's constancy of aim and effort. Then the last one is you are a being of divine intelligence, that's where objectiveness and non-falsehood. So where does moderation and non-excessiveness come in the three aspects that we have? It is actually part of both. It is you are being of divine intelligence because through intelligence you are able to you understand what is good, what is not good, what is too much, what is not too much, what is not enough. You get the idea? Moderation, non-excessiveness. When is love too much or not enough? When is the use of force enough or not enough? That has to do with what? You are being of divine intelligence. All right? It is also part of you being a being of divine will or power, because moderation, non-excessiveness also gives you the ability or guides you and gives you the principles of how much dosage of will, power, or energy to be exerted in a particular project or particular endeavor. So moderation, non-excessiveness could be either it's part of you are being of divine intelligence and you are being of divine will or divine power. All right? So message always says we are a manifestation of God. In other words, we are a reflection of God's qualities. God is a being of divine light, divine love. Divine light is divine intelligence, divine love, and divine intelligence. We are a spiritual being made in the image of God. So therefore, we also quote-unquote inherited these qualities of divine intelligence, divine love, and divine power. The virtues are interconnected with these three different aspects that we have. All right? I hope that helps you understand everything that we're doing. So let's continue. So lying distorts the mental perception, the inner perception of other people. The karmic fruit of this is that one's mental perception will be distorted. Why? Because one has mentally blinded and distorted the perception of others. So I think this is pretty self-explanatory. When you blind somebody from the truth, karmically it comes back as our ability to see truth will also be distorted or covered up. That is the meaning. All right. Every time a person distorts the inner perception of somebody else, his inner perception will be distorted. He just basically repeated it. Honesty must be balanced with non-injury and loving kindness. You should practice honesty most of the time. Now, he'll repeat this several times, but we'll talk about it. In other words, if you put your hand like this, move your right arm. Say honesty, non-lying. Move your left arm. Loving kindness, non-injury. So in other words, if there's ever a conflict between the two, in other words, if by saying certain things, by being honest to something, it will severely and, massively hurt someone, loving kindness supersedes. In other words, if there's a conflict between the two, loving kindness supersedes. There's a story many years ago, I remember he was talking about it. In the Philippines, there's this woman, I think in her 80s, 70s or 80s. Her body's very weak. Her heart has a severe condition, severe heart condition. And her son died of AIDS. And what the family did, they did not tell the mother that the son died of AIDS because she's very conservative Catholic. And, AIDS is usually associated with homosexuality. And in her faith, that's a big no-no. So what the family did is just told her she died of some form of infection. The son died of some infection without telling the mother the details. The question is why? Again, here you go. You have honesty, right, and non-lying. The truth is the son died of AIDS and he was homosexual. Loving kindness says by using this truth, you would be injuring the mother. In other words, there's a high probability, not just a possibility, a high probability the mom would have such an emotional shock that she might have a heart attack and eventually die. So the family decided to use loving kindness a little more than what? Honesty, so that the mother does not get hurt. So message always says we have to use a form of mature honesty. In other words, if there's going to be a conflict, if you're going to open your mouth and this is just going to destroy this person, and it's not absolutely here's the key word, not absolutely necessary, then you refrain from it. Clear? Okay, let's continue. That's a form of mature kind of honesty. You know, it's funny, one of the examples he always says this. To differentiate mature kind of honesty and kids or immature honesty is somebody calls looking for your mother, right? You call somebody and you say, oh, could I talk to your mother? The child picks up, hold on, and then goes over there. Mom says, no, I don't want to talk to her. Tell her I'm not there. So the daughter says, excuse me, sir, my mom said that she is not here. You get the idea? It's honesty, but it's an immature way. It's just like a kid. So a lot of times people, they don't look at it, okay, they take it so like rigidly that it has to be pure honesty. Well, honesty could also be used as a weapon. If some of you ever had this experience before, somebody tells you something true but extremely hurtful, and then in the end they say, oh, I'm just being honest. In other words, when you look at somebody and somebody says, what do you think of my dress? You go, ooh, it's ugly. Well, first of all, it might be ugly. You could kind of coat it a little bit by saying, well, you know, it's very interesting. I'm not really sure if it fits your body very well. Maybe a different shade might match your body shape or body type better. If you're saying, oh, it's ugly, I mean, that person probably would feel so bad and so terrible, their self-esteem will go down the drain. So it's one of those things where you're constantly juggling loving kindness, non-injury, and honesty and non-lying. Okay, let's continue. So, next thing it says, you have to be honest with yourself. Self-honesty results in rapid spiritual development and humility. To progress spiritually, one must have awareness, self-honesty, and the will to transform. All right, let's talk about this. Actually, it's easier if we understand the next one. Truth can be painful. Humility comes from an accurate perception of what you are. You must know your strengths and weaknesses, your virtues and your vices. Essentially what he's saying is this. In order to spiritually progress, we need to know what our strengths, our weaknesses. Okay, what exactly does that mean? So for example, we already know, hey, we have a tendency to be lazy. So you don't go out and say, by the way, you know, I meditate every day, I do this, which is true, which is not true. You know your weakness is you have a tendency to dilly-dally around and you know, give excuses instead of sitting down and actually doing your spiritual practice or whatever task you want to do. So you have to be honest with yourself, knowing fully well, like, hey, you know, this is one of my weaknesses. It's something I need to work on. And just be honest with yourself about it. A lot of times what people do is this. If they have certain insecurities, which are actually what? Knowledge of the weakness. That's why it's an insecurity. They know they're not good at this. What do? They cover it up. That manifests as what you call unhealthy pride. What exactly does that mean? If a person does not have good self-esteem, they don't think they're smart enough, they're not good enough, what happens when they're in front of public, they always keep showing, oh, I'm the smartest person in the world. I know better. I'm very important. They keep pushing themselves on it because it's actually a facade or like a shell to give a false impression of who they really are. So if a person does not really understand that, hey, it's okay, I'm not perfect, nobody's perfect, we're all evolving, everybody makes mistakes, everybody have faults that they need to correct, and I'll progress at my own rate. So if they think that way, they don't find themselves trying to impose their beliefs on people. They don't come across as being arrogant and things like that because they know who they are. So to spiritually develop, there has to be self-honesty. And with this self-honesty comes humility. Humility in the sense of what? Somebody asks you to do something, you say, I'm sorry, that's not my specialty. And one of the stories that I always remember is one time one of my colleagues was in Massachusetts and they had a flat tire. You know, the car had a flat tire. She's a woman. He's a man. So, you know, you would think most of the time you say, oh, the man will show his or her strength or gentleman qualities to repair the, you know, change the tire. And Messenger said, I'm very, very sorry. This is not my specialty. I've never done it before. I'm sorry, I cannot do this. And he was just plain honest. He knows he's a great spiritual teacher. He knows his strengths. He also noticed that that's not something he's good at. So they waited for, you know, a car service to come in and do it for them. You get the idea? So it's as simple as you know who you are, you know who you're not. If you're not good at physics, you're not going to pretend, oh, by the way, I know every formula in the world. And when somebody asks you what happened, you fall flat on your face. You just say, that's not my expertise. As Master Cho always says, not everyone can be a person cannot be an expert in everything. Maybe in many incarnations, yes, but not in a few incarnations. The database of knowledge is so wide and so deep, no one is expected to be an expert. So if you don't know, you just say, I don't know. Or you can say, by the way, this is my opinion. In my perception, it's this, 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 and this. That's it. People respect you for it. So self-honesty is extremely important. You have to know, hey, what are my strengths? What am I good at? And these things I'm not good at, well, I'm still learning. So when somebody asks you to do it, you don't say, oh, pretend that, oh, I'll do it because I know it. You just say, well, I'll do my best. I just want to let you know, this is not my level of, this is not something I'm good at yet, but I'll do my very best to make it happen for you. So at least you're giving the person a realistic expectation. And you also feel good that you're not lying to yourself. All right? Let's continue. Practice self-honesty without excessive self-judgment. Otherwise, the disciple might become psychologically imbalanced. All right. You see, it's something like this. We realize what our strengths are and what our weaknesses are, right? So you realize, hey, I'm good at this, I'm not good at that. So if you make a mistake, it's good to have remorse, right? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not good at... let's say one of my weaknesses, if you pick one, is I have a tendency to procrastinate, okay? I guess nobody has that, right? Okay, let's say you have a tendency to procrastinate. And you're supposed to finish a certain deadline, and you didn't do it because you've been procrastinating. You didn't finish the job because you've been procrastinating. So you feel bad. You say, oh, man, I can't believe it. I cannot blame anyone. It's my mistake. So that's good. That's the first step, acknowledging that what? We made a mistake. But the thing is this, there has to be just the proper amount of remorse. Otherwise, if you keep dwelling that, oh man, I messed up, it's bad, and you dwell on it over and over and over again, two things happen. Number one, it's counterproductive because you are actually implanting negative thoughts on yourself. Even though it's just one incident, you keep pouring energy into it. There's a saying, energy follows where you put your attention to. So the more you focus on the mistake, the higher probability you'll make the mistake again. You get my point? So it's good to have remorse, to at least have that awareness. You see, awareness comes from a realization, right, that the mistake has been made, so that you say, oh, next time I won't make that mistake again. So just the proper amount of remorse is good. Like, oh, I can't believe I made a mistake. Because if you don't feel that way, you say, oh, whatever. There's a high probability it does not stick. You make the mistake again. So the right amount of remorse is good. But some people, they are still feeling bad 5-10 years later when the event is not even that significant. So it causes them to have psychological problem. Something, they made a mistake, they cannot forgive themselves, and what happens? 5-10 years go down the tubes. They didn't progress because they're dragging themselves down. You just say, oh, I made a mistake. How do I learn from it? Let's move on. Clear? All right, let's move on. Next, maintain humility. You see, when a person knows his or her own strengths and what his or her own weaknesses are, humility naturally comes out. Because when there's something you don't know, you just say, I'm sorry, I don't know it. But if there's something I know, hey, I know this very well, let me handle it. You see, the perception is so accurate, there's no need to self-inflate or self-deflate. There's no need, because you are so clear where you are, where you're not, and when it comes across, this is who I am, period. So humility comes actually from good self-esteem or self-perception. Okay? Perception of the self. So if you have a good perception of yourself, you say, okay, this is what I am, this is what I'm not. Humility naturally comes out of that. You don't have to prove anything to anybody because you know who you are. Clear? If honesty is in conflict with loving kindness and non-injury, loving kindness and non-injury supersede honesty. You remember that. In other words, if what's going to come out of our mouth is hurtful and it's not absolutely necessary, keep the mouth shut. You see, why is it absolutely necessary? Sometimes people, like for example, children, if you don't tell them exactly, by the way, this is the mistake you made, so that's why you're having these problems now, as an example. If you don't tell them, they don't realize it. They don't feel like they need to change, right? Now, another thing about that is something like this. If you tell them too softly, not enough loving, if you put too much love into it, like you sugar it someone, oh honey, it's okay, the person does not feel the impact of their mistake. So they would not have the awareness to be careful next time so they don't make the mistake again. So sometimes when these two are in conflict, you just might have to adjust a little bit, maybe a little more of this, or a little more will, a little more honesty, or a little bit more. You adjust according to the situation. Clear? So let's continue. Do not use honesty to hurt other people. Do not use honesty as an excuse to be verbally sadistic. I think we talked about this before. Sometimes you meet people, they cut you down left and right with their words, and in the end they just say, well, I'm just being honest. They'll tell you, oh, you're dumb, you're stupid, you're ugly, blah, 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 and in the end they say, oh, I'm just being honest. Well, that is their perception of honesty. You get the idea? And a lot of times when people say that, the funny part is when people say that, I'm just being honest, a lot of times they embellished it a little bit. In other words, the negative quality, they kind of inflate it a little bit. Clear? All right, let's move on. When you master honesty, your mind becomes razor sharp. You can penetrate very deeply, seeing things as they are without delusions. If you want to understand deep esoteric teachings, you must practice a high degree of honesty. What he's saying, it goes back to the law of karma again. If you want your mind to be clear, you have to keep other people's minds clear. In other words, if you don't want your perception to be distorted, right, do not distort other people's perception. That's basically what he's saying. All right? Now, deep esoteric teachings. Deep esoteric teachings is like this. It goes far beyond what we're going to cover now. But deep esoteric teachings is the ability. That's why it's called esoteric, not exoteric. Esoteric means inside. It's deep inside. It's hidden. The word esoteric means hidden. So in order to understand what is hidden, you have to have a clear, sharp mind to be able to penetrate the external surface to see the inside. And in order to do that, you cannot have any clouds on your perception. So if you have a tendency to lie to people, make things up left and right, then the karma of that is there are more and more clouds that are hindering you from seeing deeper teachings. So in order to clear this up, you can study, you meditate, clean your own aura. That's important, but it's also important to refrain from intentionally lying or hurting people with truth, because that just puts more cloud. So if you refrain from that, there's less clouds, you practice your meditation, it allows you to dive deep, cut down, your mind's a razor sharp, you understand deep esoteric teachings. That's what it means. Clear? Okay, let's move on. That's why he said, practicing a high degree of honesty is a key to becoming a genius. What is a genius? The ability to understand, many things. You're super smart, you're super sharp. So if you don't distort other people's perception, then it's easy to see things clearly. What is complicated for other people, for you, is very simple like that. Okay? Then, interesting question. Are you sure what you are saying is really correct? A lot of times we say something with such conviction, and we think it's correct, but actually it's just based on hearsay. I mean, let's put it this way: the wars have been waged throughout history on misunderstandings. Somebody says it with such conviction, people believe it. It's just like dictators; they go out and say, "We have to kill this race. We have to do this. We have to do that." They say with such conviction, people say, "Oh, must be correct." As we always say, people say, "Oh, the person sounds so sincere." A person can be sincere and sincerely wrong. The conviction does not always equate to truth. Just because somebody believes it and bets their life on it does not make it true. Truth is truth. The way the person expresses it is a different matter. Okay? Different people can have different opinions and still be right. There are different levels of truth and different facets of truth. A good example of this is the chakras. All right, you heard the 7 chakras before. Most people think, there's 7 chakras. That's correct. Then some people say, actually, that's not correct. There are 9. Well, 7 chakras could be correct, but for somebody who understands deeper, they can say, your 7 is correct, but I also noticed that there are also 2 more. Oh, okay, there are 9 chakras. And somebody who's clairvoyant said, look, based on the tree of life and based on deep esoteric teachings and what the clairvoyant sees, you actually have 11 major chakras. So the 7 chakras is the first level of truth. Okay? Then the 9 chakras is second level of truth. Then 11 chakras are the third level of truth. So all 3 different truths can exist simultaneously depending on the understanding of the person. Clear? Just like when you ask somebody, all right, let's talk about it. What is the meaning of love? Ooh. You have a baby. Love is just like looking at mama's eyes, daddy's eyes. Goo goo gaga, I want milk. Well, that's love, right? You have somebody who's like a toddler or maybe a small kid. What happens? What is love? Love is wanting the approval of mom and dad. You become a teenager, well, it gets interesting what the meaning of love is. Then when you get to be in your 40s, the meaning of love is if a person's retired, a person's dying, what is love? When a person's on the spiritual path, what is love? So although this is love, right, depending on the development of emotional body, mental body, spiritual development, this love can have many meanings and everybody can be correct at the same time. Many levels of truth. All right? Next. Lies used as excuses must be avoided. Practice a mature type of honesty. Eventually, everything based on lies will be destroyed. As much as possible, avoid all unnecessary lies as they are injurious. And he says, more lies must be required to support a lie. Lies produce more lies. Practice high degree of honesty. For every lie that is made, you need at least, 5 to 10 of them to cover it up. And then for each of those, you need it's exponential. So as much as possible, do not lie unless absolutely necessary. You say, well, why can't you be completely 100% honest? Well, what if somebody comes into your house with a gun, wants to buy wants to steal, wants to take your stuff, take your things. If they ask you, do you have money? What do you say? Oh, yeah. In fact, I have 5 safes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One is in the bedroom, one is in the kitchen, one is this, one is this, one is that. You're being honest. Okay, number 1, right there, there's there's a mistake there, right? And number 2, the person says, okay, what is the combination of each one? Okay, then you give it I'm supposed to practice honesty. You see, you have the right to protect your family. You have the right to protect your assets. So a mature form of honesty would be what? If that does happen, God forbid, you just say, oh, okay, there's one safe. And if you're smart, you pick the one with the least amount of money. So hopefully, just by that, the guy will be happy and leave. You get the idea? You're still practicing honesty, but at the right dosage, and the loving kindness towards your family and your well-being supersedes. So you just kind of show one, or even lie to them and say, oh, by the way, no, everything's in the bank. But that might not be too safe because the person might go crazy. You just say, you give them something, so hopefully they go away. You get the idea? Don't say, oh, you are taught to practice honesty to the letter. So you tell them exactly where the safes are, what the combinations are. You even go and help them get it out. I mean, you get the idea? Some people, they take things so rigidly, it's hard to spiritually develop or mentally develop because they don't learn the essence of the teaching. Clear? So that's why Master Cho said, it has to be a mature type of honesty. What else? So, invoking for God's blessing, we're on page 47, open your palms. Lord God, please bless me with honesty to others, honesty to myself, non-self-delusion, and a harmless form of honesty, with thanks and in full faith, so be it. Lord God, thank you for blessing me with self-honesty and honesty to others in a mature way. We thank you in full faith, so be it. Amen. Okay, how are we doing? Well, there's 2 more pages. If you don't mind, we'll just go ahead and cover it. It's on the same topic. Let's see. Truth is like a jewel, like a diamond. It has many facets, many sides. If you look at only one side, you will not see the whole picture. What you see depends on how you look at it. This has many levels of truth. So let's just try to see it from his perspective to make it easier to understand. A word, W-O-R-D, a word, is like a finger pointing at different things. Do not look at the finger. Focus on the essence of the word. Focus on what the finger is pointing at. So Master Cho talks about this story of a scholar that went to see a spiritual teacher. And the spiritual teacher was very glad to help. So the student says, teacher, could you please interpret this sacred teachings for me, these sacred texts? The teacher said, why don't you read it to me? Because I'm illiterate, I am no read, no write. So read it to me. The student, not being too smart, started to judge the teacher, said, you're supposed to be a teacher. You're supposed to be the head of this spiritual group. And you can't even read. The teacher said kindly, he says, yeah, that's true. But in your case, you have the ability to read, but you do not understand what you're reading. You keep looking at the finger, you do not know where the finger is pointing at. Words are like fingers. The same word could mean different things. In other words, the same word could point to different things at the same time. So, what happens when you talk about truth? Truth has so many levels. The way he does it is like this. Let me see. I think it's here on this page. Okay, let's do it again. Put your hand like this. Make a small circle. Say truth level 1. Okay? Then a bigger circle. Say truth level 2. And then truth level 3. So, truth level 1 is contained in level 2. Truth level 1 and 2 is contained in level 3. In other words, a higher truth will contain the lower truth. So if you say there are only 7 chakras, okay, that's interesting. Then somebody who understands says, by the way, you have 9 chakras. It does not make the 7th chakra wrong. It just simply means what? Yes, there are 7, but actually there's 2 more. And somebody who's a higher clairvoyant or somebody who has studied deeper would say, hey, both of the 2 are correct, but you actually have 11 major chakras. And somebody even more spiritual advances, by the way, you have 12 and more. You get the idea? And you have minor chakras also. So these truths can exist simultaneously. Now let's talk about this as far as spiritual teachings. In spiritual teachings, an easy way to understand it is something like this. The first level of truth usually is taking a spiritual teaching or the verse in the sacred text literally. The second level of truth would be understanding the teachings or reading the spiritual text symbolically. And the third level of truth is what you call esoteric truth or even energetic truth. Let's give you an example. In the Bible, there's a very famous verse that says, if your eye be single, your whole body be filled with light. All right, you understand? If the eye is single, your body be filled with light. So the first level of truth, if you take it literally, that means you have to pluck one of your eyes out, make one of your eyes blind for you to be filled with spiritual light. It's pure nonsense, right? But that is if you took it literally, and none of you probably do that, right? I hope. Okay. A second level of truth will be symbolic. Symbolically, that means you have to be very one-pointed, with one eye, just really focus on your objective, not 2 eyes, as in you're not focused on other things, just one-pointed. You have to be very focused. So it's symbolic. By being focused in your practice, your meditation, you'll experience the light of God. Very good, symbolic. Then the next level of truth is, a lot of you have taken the class Om Mani Padme Hum, have studied the Spiritual Essence of Man book, you have studied Achieving Oneness with the Higher Soul with Master Cho, and you've learned that in the center of your head is the pineal gland, right, which is actually a particle of light. And that particle of light, when the energy in the center of your head is very, very strong and activated, it's like an eye. That's one. Or it's also called like the remnant eye. And it's interesting, in different parts of the world, when the sun does not shine as much, really cloudy or whatever, people have a tendency to be depressed. And if you ask a doctor, they will say because your pineal gland needs to be stimulated by light to produce the necessary chemicals to give you a sense of well-being. So it's like an eye. You got it? To perceive light, you need a receptor like an eye. So the third level of truth would be, if your eye be single, your body be filled with light. So the center of your head, in the pineal gland, what is called the blue pearl, when that is very, very activated with divine energy, your whole aura is filled with divine light. So first level of truth is, you need one eye physically only. Second level of truth, symbolically, you have to be focused in your spiritual practice, one-pointedness. That is This is above this, right? Second level of truth. Third level of truth is what? It is actually a deep esoteric teaching. So depending on the development of the student will determine which level of truth they understand. Clear? So that's that. Let's move on. So truth has many levels. Fanatical or dangerous people believe their opinion is only the truth. So when people get fanatical, that means they don't use their mental faculty properly. They just get really emotional. They go crazy. They do crazy things. As simple as that. Truth is dynamic. Truth is like water and air. It should be made available to people who are ready. Okay, this is actually talked about a little bit in detail. When people are ready, truth is revealed piece by piece. Okay, most of you have heard, if the student is ready, the teacher will appear. What exactly does that mean? If the student is at the level, the chakras, the body, the mental faculty, the emotional state, if everything's ready, the appropriate teacher will appear. That is the correct term. The appropriate teacher will appear. It doesn't mean the student is ready, the teacher will appear. The question is, who's the teacher? The appropriate teacher at that time. You will not expect a college professor to teach a kindergarten child. So a kindergarten child will require a kindergarten teacher. So when the student is ready at a certain level, a certain teaching comes to you. So that shows you that teachings are being given, or the truth is being given to us piece by piece. That is what it's meant. So the interesting part is, a lot of times, if you have one great spiritual teacher, if he or she knows what you can handle, the teachings given to you at a certain level. That's why in pranic healing, we have pranic healing level 1, or what is called basic pranic healing. People are just learning about cleansing, energizing the chakras, right? Meditation. So that's first level. So the teachings be given to you at that level, or a small piece. Once you experience good results, you help people, you're really dedicated to helping a lot of people, so on and so on, you want to learn more, okay, this next level of truth is given to you. Or second piece of the truth is using advanced pranic healing, or using colors. So you have white, and then you say, oh, by the way, instead of just white light, this white light differentiates into many different frequencies, or color pranas. This color prana can be used for this. Then, when you're ready, pranic psychotherapy, not only can you use colors, you can use this to remove negative thoughts and negative emotions, phobias, addictions, so on and so on. You can use this extraction technique, fill up the chakra with energy, the person feels better, and so on and so on. You get the idea? So the teachings are given piece by piece. Then the teacher says, oh, by the way, that same energy can be used for protection. It can be used with gemstones and crystal for spiritual development and practice, improve your relationships, and so on and so on. So the teacher actually, it's something like this. Either you have many teachers in your life, or you belong to a good school that the teachings are very comprehensive, but it is given to you at the rate that the students can absorb and assimilate in a way of what? Different levels of teachings, or different classes. That's why it says, truth, when people are ready, truth is revealed piece by piece. Clear? All right. Truth is simple, but it's not obvious to common people. You know, it's interesting. I remember one thing Master Cho said was this many years ago. He says, what is enlightenment? You know, that's always people, what is enlightenment? And people give all sorts of answers. It's this, it's that, it's oneness, it's this. You know what Master Cho said? Enlightenment is knowing what is obvious. You say, what does that mean? When a person develops more and more, they start to realize it is obvious that the physical body, the emotions and the thoughts that they have are not permanent. So when these are not permanent, who is using these impermanent vehicles or instruments? So the obvious thing is there must be an I, right? An I that moves the body. There must be an I that moves the emotion or create the emotions. There must be an I that initiates and continues the mental process. So when the body dies, the emotions are gone, the thoughts are gone, who's left? I. The real I is the soul, the spiritual self. So enlightenment means understanding or knowing the obvious, that you are the I am within you. And then, of course, there are different levels of truth, and there are different levels of enlightenment. different levels of understanding that, hey, not only am I a spiritual being, I'm a spiritual being connected to an even higher and more powerful spiritual being, the higher soul. Then I realize I'm actually one with my divine self, which is ultimately one with God and one with all. So different levels of enlightenment, different levels of understanding truth. That's that. All right. Truth is based on validation, not emotion. Okay. Let's just finish it with this. Truth is based on validation, not emotion. As we said before, just because something feels correct does not make it right. It could be correct, but this is not the only criterion to make something right. Some people, they say this. They say, just follow your heart only, everything will be fine. You heard it before? Oh, just follow your heart, everything will be fine. Don't worry about anything else, just follow your heart. Well, that assumes that your emotional body is clear. That's one. And number two, that assumes that emotionally you're not attached to the result. Because if you are, your opinion of what is correct and what might be correct, either one could be correct or either one could be wrong. So truth is truth regardless of how we feel about it. Clear? That's why message always says we have to practice balance. You have to be very intelligent. You have to be, willful enough or assertive enough to do what needs to be done. At the same time, there has to be a degree of love and caring for people. These three are constantly balancing. All right, let's move on. Truth is honesty in a harmless way. He's just basically repeating what he said. If there's a conflict, let's repeat. Conflict between honesty, non-lying, and loving kindness, non-injury. Loving kindness, non-injury supersedes. And the last one. Wisdom or intuition is seeing the truth through direct inner perception without using the rational mind. All right, what does he mean? The rational mind basically works like this, as most of you know. You study the matter, right? As you study, A is equal to B. B is equal to C. Therefore, A is equal to C. You study it. This led to this conclusion. Direct inner perception or intuition says A is equal to C. Why? It's obvious. I see it. Or the best way message puts it is like this. Somebody who does not have intuition or direct knowing will be like a person in front of an elephant with his eyes closed. So he's going, I feel this big leg. 4 of them. I feel this 2 big ears. I feel this long trunk. It's an elephant. Okay? A person who has intuition, direct inner perception, hey, it's obvious, it's an elephant. So why are we talking about this? Just to finish this segment, when we do our spiritual practice, we are able to heighten our intuitive intelligence. So the more you do your meditation, it allows you to access higher spiritual senses. It allows you to see things clearly that other people do not see. It allows you to perceive something that is not obvious to other people but obvious to you. This is intuitive intelligence. By the way, intuitive intelligence works with the rational mind. So when these work together, you're able to see things clearly. At the same time, you can use your mind to validate what you are sensing. That's it. Okay? I hope that you learned a lot today. It's one of those topics where it's very simple, direct to the point, and it really helps us with our lives. Because a lot of times we get easily swayed by, sensationalism, right? People get really excited. Oh, guess what? Like this, you go, But if you don't think and analyze, what happens? You get swept with the emotions, so you cannot think clearly. It's just like somebody, who wants to win you over. Instead of making you understand certain things, they get you emotionally excited. So when you get emotionally excited, the mental faculty is not functioning as much. It is the emotional faculty that is functioning. So you're all excited. Say, sign here, buy this. You go, oh yeah, it'll make you look good. It'll make you look nice in front of your friends and so on and so on. Don't worry about the money. You don't. Oh man, you cannot afford it in your budget. But you see, since the mental faculty is not that active by the time it's the emotional body, what happens? Impulse buying. But if your mental quality go, okay, that's nice. I mean, you're getting me all excited. Good, I see the benefits. But let me think: is this part of my budget? Do I really need this? And how you said I'm going to look good in front of my friends. Well, I'm not going to wear this in front of my friends. So what difference does it make? Let me think. Okay, not a good idea. Thank you very much. You get the idea? Honesty, non-lying, objectiveness, and non-falsehood also keeps your mind razor sharp, so people do not easily take advantage of you. Clear? So all these teachings are very, very helpful in all areas of our lives. Anyway, so I hope that you learned a lot. Of course, everything I'm sharing with you is my opinion of what I understood the teacher taught on his priceless teachings. So Compassionate Objectivity, the Golden Lotus Sutras on character building. All right, finish the book. So let us give thanks. To the Divine Supreme God, Divine Father, Divine Mother, we thank you for your immense blessings, your divine light, divine love, divine guidance, help, healing, and protection. Thank you for the teachings. Thank you for blessing us with the virtues of loving kindness and non-injury. Thank you for blessing us with the virtue of generosity and non-stealing. Thank you for blessing us with the virtue of constancy of aim and effort and non-laziness. Thank you for blessing us with the virtue of honesty and non-lying, the virtue of objectiveness and non-falsehood. And thank you for blessing us with the virtue of moderation and non-excessiveness, so we may practice all these virtues properly. We thank you in full faith, so be it. In full faith, so be it. Amen. Om. Amen. So it is. All right. So thank you very much for joining us. I hope you learned a lot. As we finish this series, of course, we'll start with other books by Grandmaster Choa Sui. We want to make sure that we give you the opportunity to really learn the teacher's teachings, and we are here to basically guide you and point you in the direction that at least he has taught us, and so you can understand his teachings much deeper. All right, so please give us some comments. We love hearing from you as always, and a lot of you have been donating to keep this ministry free. We thank you for it, and it is being used properly. We want to make sure that we can continue to spread his work and his teachings through this media. All right, thank you very much for your generosity. So Atma Namaste, God's blessing be with you. We'll see you next time. Bye.